Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. We are very pleased to welcome you to join the Architects 2021 product talk with the topic of Building Information Modeling, the new paradigm shift in architecture, engineering, and construction industry, brought to you by NS Boost Group Lysaght. Along the presentation, if you have any question, please jot it down and then you feel free to visit our virtual booth by click on the button below. At first, let me introduce our guest speaker today, Dr.Leng Chung. Dr. Leng carry a PhD in architecture from UTM. Currently, he is working with Faculty of Built Environment and Surveying Architecture Program, University Technology Malaysia. Dr. Leng, hi, how are you? I am glad to have you today.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Ng. Okay, good day to you. Thanks for inviting me to share my view as an academician in the BIM events today.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Leng. Do you mind to share more about your background and, like, for example, what subject you're teaching in UTM, and also what other roles you play in UTM, especially in the aspect like cooperation between the academic and the industry?
Okay, sure. Thank you very much for that. Okay, I'm currently working as a senior lecturer in architecture program, Faculty of Built Environment and Surveying in UTM, located at Johor Bahru, Johor. Okay, so other than teaching the architecture design studios, I'm also teaching the communication subject. For example, we call it CAD and BIM. Yeah, environmental technology subject for the master students, for example, such as the advanced architectural technology and integrated environments, as well as the advanced technology constructions. As an academicians, other than teaching and supervisions for our master students, PhD students, and so forth, we also work hand in hand together with all kinds of the consultants, local authorities, government agencies, and industry in order to contribute the solutions such as the vertical green project, okay, and for the action plan for DBKL on the Wangsa Maju carbon neutral 2050. And we also involved in some of the consultancy project, like for example, we designed the low carbon maintenance or low maintenance substations for TMB, redevelopments and adaptations of the green rating tools for ILDA, okay, and others. So these kinds of all the experience that we involve in all the development project is basically quite useful, okay, in order for us to strengthen our knowledge for in the teaching, okay, in our institution.
I see. So, Dr. Leng, really appreciate that. So thank you for the sharing. I believe based on your extensive knowledge and experience, audiences should be able to bring back a lot of valuable information about the topic that you're going to share with us today. So let me introduce myself. My name is Ng Chia Hao. I will be the host for you today and also the second speaker. Currently, I am the Technical Solution Manager for NS Boost Group Malaysia. My scope will include technical services, product development, and digitalization in business support. So today, Dr. Leng will share with us in 4 topics, which are the BIM, the background and revolution, the application, the way forward, and then the academic arena, the teaching and learning of BIM. After that, Dr. Leng and myself will have a dialogue session to talk about some interesting topic related to BIM. And in the last topic, I will introduce the Lysaght BIM object to all of you. So without further ado, let's start the first topic of today, the background and revolution. Dr. Leng, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ng. Okay, for such informative introductions. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So for the first topic that we are going to start off is about the building information modeling. So most of you might feel like funny, why we always have to start with the definitions, right? But because I think that before we start off the topic, it's good for us to let everyone know what is basically the BIM or Building Information Modeling on. Most of the people will thought that, okay, BIM perhaps is just one of the software. Yeah, perhaps it's not. Perhaps it's a set of technologies, processes, policies that enables all kinds of the multiple stakeholders, designers, and the technical team to collaboratively come up with the design, constructions, the operations in the facility in a virtual space. So most of the time, what we have been doing is all relying on the face-to-face meetings as well as the hard copies of the drawings. At most, we just email the drawings to our clients and the technical teams and so forth, okay, design teams and so forth. So by using the BIM, we can cut down a lot of our time and make the whole process more efficient. So it has been grown tremendously, okay, over the years. In now is the current expansions of the digital innovation across the construction industry. By using the intelligent, the 3D modeling, in this case, it process usually required a short time that allow all kinds of the professional, for example, we have architects, engineers, contractors, or other construction professional to conduct our work more efficiently in terms of the design, planning, construction, and managing the building and infrastructure. So as you can see at the right side here, okay, basically, this is the whole process that involve and can be conducted by using the BIM modeling software. Okay, so it's like a platform to enhance the qualities of the management, started from our conceptual design, detailed design, and we can even do the analysis, documentation, fabrications, okay, constructions in the 4D or 5D, logistic, O&M, as well as the renovations. So by using one platform, so we can keep enhancing from time to time the BIM modeling without repeating the same process. Let's say if you want to do renovations for your building in the future, we no need to do few measurements again, okay, which is not that accurate. By using the BIM modeling, we can take over, the designer can take over the model in order to develop further and do analysis in order to make sure the whole process goes smoothly. All right. As you can see at the bottom here, there's like a dimension. D means dimension. Start from the sketch point, 1 dots, up to 6D. We have 7D, 8D, and 9D. Perhaps in the future we have 10D. So each of the dimension represent one kind of the top ups and the management that allows the designers and all kind of the professional to work in detailedly, okay, in term of the our 3D modelings and so forth. So that is basically what the BIM modelings means in this case. Okay, so maybe now we can move on to the next slide. Let us to look into the industrial revolutions in this case. Okay, as you can see here, the first industrial revolutions until the fourth industrial revolutions through which happened since the 17th century until the millennial years today. Okay, started from the use of, for example, the revolutions in terms of using the steam powers, electricities, and electronics in the past industrial revolutions. Now, digitalization is the keywords that rules the fourth IR. Okay, fourth IR is more than just a fashionable buzzword. So it means referring to the industrial revolutions that makes the trends, growing trends in the automations, Internet of Things, and by means, in short, is a digitalization. So along with the big data and the cloud computing technologies, it allows all kinds of the work to be conducted more efficiently. All right, just now I did talk about the digitalization. So now you can see the top 10 disruptive technologies in the constructions. Okay, as you can see here, over the past 50 years, the constructions industry has operated, okay, and as it is, which is highly dependent on the manual labors and the mechanical technologies and established operating models. Okay, it makes the productivity has stagnates, okay, over the years. Like usually we will ask, okay, how long the time that I should wait, okay, in order for me to get a bungalow. So the typical answer would be perhaps 6 months to 1 year or maybe more. Okay, depends on the situations. By using the BIM, we can cut down the times in processing because it's allowed us to integrate the works more efficiently and much faster. Hence, we can call that is parts of the sustainability and more resilience kind of the technology. Okay, so yeah, when we talk about BIM, perhaps some of our friends might think that what is that all about? Is it a 3D? Like for example, you said SketchUp, okay, and with some of the informations. Now, please look at the slide. You can see that from the left side, we have the BIM modeling, which is so-called the first generations. So this is how we understand the technology is likely to be heading to. Okay, so in the first generations, in 20 years ago, there is much more on the development of the 3D. So we are hardly to identify the informations that have been drawn or proposed by us in a 3D modeling software. So that would be purely being controlled and defined, predefined by us. Okay, next, let's move to the second generation. As you can see, it's a BM, building modeling, with the data attached. Now, the development of the software allow us to tag the data on the top of the modeling, which means that it's allowed us to understand what does it mean by one line, one piece of the walls, and so forth. But it's still a non-bidirectional data transfer mode. Okay, move to the third generations. As you can see here, BIM model with the embedded data in the constructions, context, and behavior, which with the limits. Okay, this is the starting points that how we can so-called the BIM starting coming in from. Okay, we can start to get the information has been embedded inside the 3D modeling. So in the future or currently, our world is progressively moving into that direction, means that in the future, the modeling, the 3D modeling and the data could be perhaps detached from each other. As everyone knows, 3D modeling is so-called heavy. Okay, that's why when you input the data into the 3D modeling, the whole, let's say, RVT file become heavy and it's quite hard, or the glitches might happen when we're trying to transform from one place to another. That's why in the fourth generations, the model data allow us to be detached and regenerate back in the futures. So it can be standalone and regenerate back from one to another and being used for the other sector, for example, O&M, operation and maintenance in the future. So this is one of the developments or the progress of the evolutions of the BIM nowadays. As you can see here, we have the implementations of the BIM modeling or the building itself that has been implemented now, which has been realized, okay, in the real world situations. So now I'm going to show you like one of the sample example, which is the One Island East in Hong Kong. Okay, this is a fully BIM modeling building that has been constructed by dealing with the BIM processes. So we have a Hilton Aquarium Atlanta, USA as well, that is using the process of the BIM. Okay. So other than that, we also have the Freedom Tower, the New York, which is using the BIM modeling, that utilizing the BIM modeling as a processes in order to construct the high rises at the New York. Okay, the fourth one, why I show this, perhaps some of you might feel outwards. Why? Sydney Opera House. It might happen before the development of the BIM. But however, I just wish to show you that BIM able to let us do work backwards. Even though the building is so-called that a heritage building or iconic buildings that have been built before the advancements of the technology of BIM modeling, but it allowed us to trace back, and by using the BIM technology, we can rebuild back the model accordingly, and for the client or the technical team to use back the model for the O&M, okay, monitorings and so forth. So this is one of the beauties of the BIM. So when let us move back our lens to Malaysia. So we can see that our government is doing very hard in order to promoting the BIM utilizations over here. We can see that the one of the earliest building that utilizing the BIM developments, okay, the processes, okay, is the National Cancer Institute of Malaysia in Sepang, and we have an anti-corruption commissions building in Shah Alam as well. And next, other than a typical kinds of the building, for example, like a block kind of the building, we can also see the building with design, for example, EduCity Sports Complex in Nusa Jaya, Johor. Okay, we also can utilizing the BIM modeling to construct and to monitor the whole process. So other than our government agencies, okay, our governments, so we also have quite a numbers of the stakeholders, developers also trying to venture and invest in the BIM modelings as well as the BIM processes. Okay, for example, we have the Sunway Velocity, okay, in Kuala Lumpur, which has been fully utilizing the BIM processes in the construction process. Okay, the next I'm going to share with you about the applications. Okay, how we can apply the BIM in our workflow. As you can see here, this is one of the crucial technologies that lead us towards a more efficient and a time-saving methods which achieve our goal faster. This is what we want, right? Throughout the days, every daily activities. We want it to be fast, efficient, accurate. So BIM can help us in order to conduct this process smoothly. Okay, so the typical workflow, basically from one stage to another, it takes a lot of the times and the resources. In the same time, don't forget about that. It has the miscommunication on data loss, as what you can see at the bottom here, if we occupy the conventional kinds of the construction methods. Okay, so BIM application in a construction project in this case, as you can see, it's not only just at the schematic design stage, but you can apply that, okay, throughout the A to Z. For example, pre-constructions, it covers the existing conditions of the modeling, we have the planning stage, design stage, scheduling, estimate, and even doing the analysis of the internal and external of the site. So before we build the building, we can test out and see in terms of, let's say, the energy performance. Okay, can we make it into the optimal kinds of the building design before we build that? So the client, when they receive the building, is being validated and tested that, okay, let's say the daylighting performance or the energy performance is at the optimal conditions. So after we have done all these things, okay, even though it's have to spend a certain amount of the time, but at least we can see the and foresee the final result, that when the client receive the output of the design, this is what they will get. Okay, so in the construction stage, BIM can apply this as well. It's allowed and assisting the contractors as well as the design team in monitoring the process. And at the end, the model, after the project has been constructed, finished, it can be passed back to the clients for them to do monitoring and maintenance from time to time. So this is how the BIM application in a construction project works. So in this case, you can see that, at the center, there is a so-called a core. In computer, we have so-called the data processing, the center core. But in this case, BIM is so-called like a centralized platform that enables all kinds of the designers, the stakeholders, clients, and so forth who involved in the project, okay, as been mentioned here, work together. So the data loss, the possibility for the data loss will be reduced as minimal as possible, because everyone is using the same platform, and maybe in terms of the modeling, it's the same modeling. We don't need to retrace back and doing the redundancy of the works, okay, in the future. So that can avoid some of the glitches happen from time to time. So that is one of the advantages of by utilizing the BIM. Okay, next, we can talk about the levels of development, or we call LOD. In this case, what does it mean? It's a definitions, it can be defined as a content and reliabilities of the BIM model throughout the construction project lifecycle. We know how what is the levels of application of our BIM modeling over here. By using the elements with the predefined or predetermined kind of the LOD, it allowed us to know that the expectations and the output of the BIM content on the object level at different phases. For example, you can see that LOD 100 to 200 is more on the conceptual and plannings, while for the LOD 400 is at the level of constructions. We know that if, let's say, the clients required for the certain LOD, we know what is the expectation and the output accordingly. So it's can benchmarking the project. And when you look at this diagram, okay, from the left to the right, LOD 100 basically is just a form, okay, a basic form as a conceptual design. We call that LOD 100. When it moves along to, let's say, LOD 400 or 500, it's become more and more detailed, okay? So this, or the codings, or the result, I mean, let's say the title or the coding itself allow us to understand the level of development in the industry. When we try to apply, okay, BIM, let's say in Malaysian constructions industry, that as for example, you can see here, that diagram basically is not for me. It's basically recommended by our government to be applied in the construction project. So the selections of the BIM tools is basically based on the 4 features. Let's say it's the communication reliabilities, the accuracy, usabilities, and the reliability of the data. So that kind of the communication, we need a reliable software. Okay, I'm not promoting any software here, but this is just one of the example, okay, of the software that which is widely applied, okay, in, let's say, the Malaysian industry and the institution. For example, is the Revit architecture for the architects. Most of the architects were mastering and trying to do the 3D modeling in the Revit architecture software. So when we pass the model to, let's say, the project managers or the structure engineer, there is other software which is under the Autodesk, for example. Like project manager, they were utilizing the Navisworks in order to monitoring and estimate and predict the project flow. So for the engineers, they have the Revit structures. When they get the model, okay, from the architect, so they can integrating the structures, the diagrams, as well as the structures drawing into the Revit model provided by the designer. Hence, everyone is working on same kind or one kind of the model. That easier for them to know is there any clash or the glitches happens, okay, like compared to the conventional kinds of the constructions. Okay, we know that when we have to trace from one, drawing, like let's say architect drawing, when we take over, so we have to trace back by engineers, and when it pass it back to the engineer have to relook back manually. So it increase the data loss, and other than that, the mistakes perhaps will be happens. Okay, that makes the whole things inconsistent. And compared to by utilizing the BIM, it makes the whole process can consider as more and more easier and smooth, hopefully in the future, if every one of us familiar with the software. So in the BIM map in 2018, okay, for your information, the BIM map will be developed and will be added up, okay, from time to time, from years to years. This is one of the diagram that have been proposed, okay, by the developers in order to understand the whole ideas and the concept of the BIM modeling that have been proposed and being developed by the software engineers and so forth in assisting the developments of the BIM processes. Okay, I have highlighted, okay, there are many software with from different developers. As you can see here, we found Revit, which is from the Autodesk. We have Tekla structures, okay, and we have IES and so forth. All of these software basically contributes to the BIM flow or the developments of the BIM workflow. So there are the 10 categories of the BIM software, okay? As you can see from the left to the right, okay, which means that the BIM execution planning software. So one of the example is a LOD planners. Then for the BIM contents management software, we have the BIM object, Magic CAD, BIM and Core, etc. Okay, for the BIM modeling software, I think more of the architects, okay, and engineers perhaps will be more familiar with this one because these are the samples or the examples of the software that being used up to construct the 3D model. For example, it's Autodesk Revit, we have ArchiCAD, Vectorworks, and Tekla, and so forth. So other than that, I'm not going to read through one by one. As you can see here, there are much more software that allow us to do, for example, validation, the BIM checking, pre-constructions on the BIM software on 4D or 5D, and facility management. So each of the software will play their roles in order to make sure the features can be worked efficiently, reliability, okay, increase the reliability, accuracy, and usabilities in terms of the data exchange. Okay, when we understand about the types of the software, okay, in Malaysia, how does it work? Okay, usually we only stops at, let's say, the 3D modeling. Okay, as according to CIDB in 2019, okay, you can see that the level 0, most of our stage is still stopped at around 0 and 1, which means that most of the firm, okay, still using the manual way, which by means we using the software just to do drawings and a CAD-based kinds of the software. Okay, in stage 1, start to do the modeling in a single disciplinaries by the use of the object with the best of the 3D modeling, but it's only one-way communication in the single disciplines. We hope that through the constructions industry transformation program that allow our Malaysian construction industry to implement the stage 2 BIM maturity, which is around the modeling to the collaborative, okay, stage by 2020 and perhaps in these few years. Yeah, so you can see that our government agency are basically working on that direction. So I'm going to show you some of the BIM application, okay, that have been utilized not only by the architect. For example, this is how it looks like when the structural engineer, they do the analysis by using the BIM applications. So at the right side, you can see the plumbing or the air conditioner or M&E kinds of the input that can be integrating with the gray color line that by the architects. So when these two kind of the components come together, it's easily for us to detect the clash as well as is there any glitches happens before the constructions being conducted. So for the costing and scheduling, by utilizing the BIM model, like the QS and some of the managers, it's easier for them to conduct the calculation in more accurate way because the model itself contains the informations and they just have to key in the unit prices, let's say, and how much of the materials, okay, according to the market price, let's say in the listing, and it will automatically calculate for you in order, and you can get the scheduling, costing in a quick way, okay, just in the fingertips. Then the construction management, like project manager, it allows them to foresee the construction process, and it's just like your Microsoft project allow you to foresee, okay, week 1, week 2, week 3, what will happen, and is there any the passings of the process will happen, is there any problems will happen from time to time throughout the stages of the constructions. So these are overalls are the sums of the illustrations or the images that allow us to see how is it works and how effective is it when it comes to the constructions applications. So not forget about the energy and environmental analysis. Like for example, even in our institutions, we are teaching the students on how to test our building, the design in empirical way. Okay, the students can utilizing the software, okay, in order to test out in terms of the energy performance, daylighting performance, and foresee and knowing how much of the energies that will be used up if they design in that way. So students or the designer, they manage to change their design according to the result has been generated by the software. So it will save up quite a numbers of the troubles or as well as the unforeseen questions as well as the issues that happens in the building. Okay, so it's allowed us to make decisions in correct way through the empirical analysis. So example of the BIM applications here, just now I did mention about the clash detections. So when all the model comes together, okay, M&E, architecture, structure, So if the clash happens in terms of the structures as well as the M&E, the system will show the message, or it will highlight for you where is the problems happens, and it gives you a nod, ask you whether you want to change or not. Okay, this allow us and alert us to correct it first before we pass the model to the constructions stage. Okay, so the way forward, okay, what is the future for the BIM? So as you can see here, the benefits of implementing the BIM in constructions. Okay, I will pick up few. For example, it save up the 10% of the contract values, okay, through the clash detections. It helps us to achieve at least like 3% of the cost estimations accuracy, at least 3%. And in the same times, it allowed us to reduce the drawings, coordinations issues, and the conflict errors. Okay, more than that, we can know that it allowed us to know when we should come up with the scheduling, design, budgeting, and so forth in a more proper and organized way. That in help us to cut down the time and make the overall progress more efficiently. So this is somehow the main benefits of implementing the BIM in the constructions project. Okay, so what happens in the institutions or the research-based institutions, like for example, university? We know the benefits of BIM in the future. That's why we keep studying and researching, okay, what can be done by utilizing, okay, for example, the Dynamo, okay, in order to incorporating the GBI calculations into the BIM modeling. By now, perhaps who those have joined some of the courses, the green rating tools courses, you have to calculate the let's say the GBI or the OTTV, RTTV in manual way. But by utilizing the BIM software, it allows us basically to cut down the time to do it manually. So when the model come out, we have identified it as the envelopes or roofing and so forth. When the computer, the system managed to identify it, it allowed us to get the results, okay, of the OTTV and RTTV straight away. Okay, so it saves up a lot of the time. Yeah, so this is one of the developments of the BIM for the future. But I'm sure that we have more and more students and lecturers start to develop and research on the BIM tools in order to help out and assisting the progressions of our constructions industry. So when we talk about the way forward for the future, well, this diagram basically sum up the BIM implementation in Malaysia. So it takes BIM will going to take the design to the next level. And in this case, BIM, the I is more important than the B, which means that the information. So still remember the one that I mentioned in the evolutions of the BIM just now. At the fourth stage or the fourth generation, information can carry by itself without attaching to the model. That means that we allow more and more data set to be developed and being detailed up for our building constructions and being utilized by more partners and the experts in order to managing the constructions process. And it will also destabilizing the construction industry and cut down the possibilities of the glitches happen from time to time. Yeah, so this is basically we can set that the way forward that we can see and why BIM has to be one of the important process or the step that can be adopted by our building industry and even institutions that teaching, like for example, engineering, architecture, okay, in current stage, so that we can progress in future in much faster way. Okay, next, I'm going to share with you about the academic arena in the teaching and learning of the BIM aspect. So you can roughly understand, okay, basically how we so-called teaching the BIM or the 3D modeling in BIM, okay, in our schools. Yeah, so this diagram basically sum up on the processes from week 1, okay, until week 14 in our schools or institution, okay. So when we conducting the teaching and learning, okay, in the BIM or so-called the CAD and BIM or 3D modeling or in BIM, we trying to use the new academia learning innovations, okay, instead of practicing the conventional kinds of the teaching methods. So students are going to learn from each other, which means that the peer learning. So we using the pedagogy, the learning methods of the adults, okay, they learn from each other. We rely on them and we trust them in order to come out and deliver the contents. So lecturers will guiding them accordingly from time to time. So in the next stage, after their learnings about the skills in order to build out the model, so they can practicing and they can use the skills they learn from each other in the exercise. So let's say in our SBA 3623 CAD and BIM, we want students to come up with the working drawings by using their project model, okay, by using the BIM 3D BIM software. So while they're drawing, they do the modeling, they learn as well. Okay, at the end, they manage to carry on the skills and teaching their juniors, and maybe in the future they can carry in these kinds of the skills and apply in their offices. So this is what we encourage students to do, the lifelong learning. So this is what I mentioned just now. Let's say in the BIM, 3D BIM modeling in the Revit, okay, we have 9 modules. So each of the students have to pick up one of the module, okay, and form a group. So means that there is no free riders in the group. Everyone have to pick up one of the module and mastering it. So when they learn together, okay, it will cut down the time, okay, for us to explain from time to time. Means that students are more capable when they want to adopt this, okay, and apply it in their the studio works. At the end, when they come together, let's say after the class, they can set up a study groups or maybe the support group, okay, let's say, in order to teach their friend from time to time. So the lecturers are more on the coordination side and make sure the skill as well as the learning process is smoothly conducted. Okay, and these are some of the input of the BIM modeling courses. Students, after they have learned about the 3D modeling, so they apply it on the working drawing. So this is one of the samples of our students' work by utilizing the Autodesk Revit, coming out with the working drawings. All right, there are more than all of that. So that is not only just stop there, means that they not only just knowing how to draw, but we also try to teach them, okay, apply whatever that has been proposed or coming out in the market. Let's say in the Blue Squad Lysaght, they have coming out with the BIM object, okay, so we will show them the ways, okay, we can even inviting the industry practitioners as well as the manufacturers to do a demo for them, so that when they come out to the industry, they know, okay, what is the real material that they can use. So when they do their specification, that can be rightly applied in their building modeling and the working drawing. Okay, this is what we have planned for, okay, ahead for the future. And other than the application of the BIM modelings, drawings, so we also having this kind of the exercise, collaborations with the practitioner or the industry, means that the industry, they can supplies or share their drawings, okay, with the kinds of the practical dimensions and models that they have applied in the high rises or any project they have done before. So students can take out these drawings and convert this drawing from the 2D drawing into the BIM family, or we call that like a component. So at the end, we set up a kinds of the libraries that can be shared between the students as well as the industry. That makes the whole process understandings being better. So students, what they gain is the knowledge. So they are no longer just draw whatever that they think or they want to design, but they know, okay, when they have to come out to the industry, this is so-called the dimension, the standards dimensions or the standards practicing in the markets or in the practicing offices. Wow, the practicing officers, they're able to get the resources that they can share. They can become partly of the coordinators, okay, for the students that they can pass their knowledge transfer to the student as well. We call that it's a win-win situation in this case, or the knowledge transfer, okay, in our core curriculum over here. Yeah, I think that's all for my sharing. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ng. I hope that everyone, all of you, can grasp, okay, the ideas or some of the concept that I have shared. Okay, thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Ng.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Leng. Thank you for giving us such a knowledgeable sharing session. I believe audience is able to catch the concept in how BIM is implemented in the industry, the future trend, and what the capability of the future architects or even the engineer in handling the BIM. So in order to let audience to understand more about the information you just shared with us, actually I prepared a few questions to you.
Yes, sure.
Okay, the first question is, Dr. Leng, you mentioned that the industry is using the fourth generation BIM. So does it mean that the generation 1 to 3 already obsolete? If not, can you explain in what circumstances Gen 1 to 3 can be used?
Okay, thank you very much for your questions. In response to that questions, okay, we can say that even though BIM has gradually grown from the original or kinds of the BM, the building modeling into the BI, the building information modeling, okay, with the various of the combinations as well as the data set exchange in differences. So, however, in our country, according to the National BIM report in Malaysia, the industry has still have quite a low numbers of the implementation. The level of BIM maturity is still quite low, which is between level 0, okay, to 1, as what I mentioned just now. Okay, they are still using the kinds of the 2D or the first stage or the first kind of the stage of the BIM modeling in this case. So mostly of them are still using the CAD base of the drawing and the single disciplinary kinds of the communication in terms of the modeling information exchange. So in other countries, like US, UK, or other European countries, the BIM is so-called mandated, or even our neighbors, the nearby neighbors from Singapore, they has tried their best in order to implement it and mandated the submissions of the drawings to, let's say, the local authorities by using the BIM modeling as well. So in Malaysia, we can see that the application of the BIM is still low. Hence, the industry has been aimed to achieve the level 2 maturity, okay, implementation by this year, let's say 2020, 2021, okay, in which a minimum of the 40% of the implementations rate of the public project that valued at around 100 million and above, okay, shall use the BIM, okay, in this case. So we can see that in overall, the stage that doesn't mean that level 1 or 2 is not good, but it's basically we are going to lose a lot of data and spend a lot of times, and you can see that a lot of the glitches happens, resources can be wasted, okay, if we are still applying the stage 1 or stage 0. That's an effort that have been done by our government agencies in order to promote BIM, because we hope that in the future we can cut down all those unnecessary kinds of the problems, in the construction industry.
I see, Dr. Leng. So in other words, it really depends on where the market is. If really the market start with the phase 1, then you have to use the Gen 1. Otherwise, if you keep on improving, you can use Gen 4 in the future.
Yeah, it has to become together, as what I can say, because it's only one, like as the architect is doing that. I think we can't go further. It has to be all the parties have to be being educated. Yeah, I think we are moving towards that direction. Yes.
I think I totally agree with you. You have to depends on the market and moving together. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so Dr. Leng, the next question to you is refer to the slide. You mentioned about the 10 disruptive technologies in the construction, right? And BIM is one of it. Can you maybe please share with us how BIM played an important role in this new construction trend, or how BIM is so important in current and the future construction industry?
Okay. Yeah. In refer to one of my earlier slide, I have shown you the top 10 disruptive technologies in the constructions, right? We can know that the digitalization is one of the keywords that hold the whole process in our IR 4.0. Okay, so means that in this case, our country in terms of the industry are gradually changing on how the infrastructures, the real estate, and other built assets are designing, constructed, operated, okay, and maintained from one stage to another. So by using the BIM, it's easier for us to coordinate and monitoring the whole process by using the IoT, like Internet of Things, the cloud platform, and other things, okay, in order to make the whole process smooth and cut down the time for us to get the information and data in a more accurate way. So this is what does it mean by why BIM is one of the important parts of the 10 disruptive technologies in the constructions. Yeah.
Okay, so in other words, it's not only increase the efficiency, but also increase the productivity, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, yes, done.
Okay, so Dr. Leng, third question to you is BIM is very useful for pre-construction of the and then to construction and then to post-construction stage, which means BIM is almost can cover the whole construction process. So if compared to the traditional way, we normally manage the project data in construction process. So what the difference or the benefit if we use BIM?
Okay, in answering questions, as you can see that just now I have comparing the traditional wares as well as the construction floor, that which is using the BIM. So the typical workflow, which is varies from one form to another, it involves different software and different stages. So when more people coming in, more software coming in, we tend to have a confusions or some the data loss tend to be happens. So in terms of the data manipulations, and in some cases, the possibilities, we lost up the data and the miscommunications might happen from time to time. Hence, we need more time to fix that things, okay? But by using the BIM itself, it will make the whole process more organized, integrated, time-saving, and comprehensive and effective ways that reducing the glitches and the hassles for the project management. So the other words, maybe perhaps we can say that it's more sustainable because we can see the wastages, which is one of the keywords, okay, can be reduced when we apply the BIM processes over here. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So, Dr. Last question. I think this is quite interesting, and I think a lot of people maybe would like to know is because nowadays many companies will send their existing staff to go for the BIM training. So, do you think that the method used by UTM to guide students can be adopted by the company to enhance the BIM knowledge of the staff upon they attend the training? If yes, maybe can you share with us how the company can practice it? Because normally a lot of personnel that attend the driving training, when they come back, they may be totally lost. So maybe you can share your thought about it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you very much for that. I think definitely yes. I think this is somehow an important methods that we call a pedagogy. Okay, in UTM, just now I mentioned we're using the new academia learning innovations in our teaching and learning methods. Okay, especially during these 2 years, right? We're having the pandemic. We use the online teachings and so forth. So how can we change the methods? Okay, in order, like for example, the lecturers, okay, open up the webcam and in the online platform, he keep talking, but students might, sometimes they were off the camp. So it's very difficult for us to coordinate. Why not we pass or we lead or we let them lead the teaching flow? So we pass the the responsibilities to them, but we guide from the side. So for example, by using the jigsaw technique, so students have to learn from each other. We call that a peer learning. So when this apply in the office, like for example, when a boss or architects, send the staff to not a staff, maybe like 2 or 3 persons, okay, to one of the full day or maybe 1 week courses about the BIM itself. So it allows the staff to distribute their loadings of the words. Somehow some of the people we know that the efficiencies of learning, if one person has to remember all the things, perhaps at the end it's just 40% or maybe 50% can be occupied and can be remembered. if everyone carry their own responsibility in order to capture as well as teaching, okay, their peers, okay, their office mate, okay, when they're coming back from the training, it will be good and make the whole process more efficient. So this is somehow that we can apply also the NALI, the New Academia Learning Innovations in the practices office and as well as the industry as well. So this is being designed basically for the pedagogy, for the adult learning environment as well. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I quite like the idea that instead of send one guy for the training, you send a few guys, then each of them just focus a certain module, then coming back and then share their so-called whatever knowledge they capture in the training. It's rather than better than one person go there, a few day training, come back with nothing. So
Yeah,
I think
more
this is a
efficient.
good approach. Yeah, yeah. So thank you, Dr. Leng, for giving
you very
such
much.
an insightful thought and sharing of the detailed information about assisting and the future trend of BIM in the industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think come to here, we can't really deny that BIM will be the most important tool to be adopted in the industry in the near future. So NS BlueScope Lysaght, as a part of the industrial player, already start to develop BIM objects since 2017, so that we prepare ourselves to serve the market in modeling the roofing and walling in BIM software. So let me introduce our BIM object to you and brief you what the benefit if Lysaght BIM object is used in your project. NS Code Lysaght started to develop high LED BIM objects to accommodate the 3D modeling trend in the industry. The first version was developed and launched since 2017. And then, of course, that we cannot just stop where we are. We upgrading the BIM object from time to time. And then to make it more user-friendly and at this stage, all the BIM object is available in our website. So the type 1 is the generation 1 BIM object. It was developed in 2017 and it is in single piece of BIM object. So the user have to apply the BIM object piece by piece to cover the whole area of the roof and wall. The adjustable features only the length and the colors. Then type 2 is the generation 2 BIM object. It was developed in 2018. It was built in texture format, which means the user does not need to apply the BIM object piece by piece, but he or she just need to assign the dimension. Then the whole area of the roof and wall will be covered automatically. And the adjustable features will be the length, the width, and the colors. Then the type 3. Type 3 is the generation 3 of the BIM object from Lysaght. It was developed in 2020, which is last year. It was built in the texture format too. But with the additional roof build-up layers is already cast inside the BIM object, which is the insulation, wool, substrate, aluminum foil, etc. was built into the BIM object. There's no change in the adjustable or changeable features compared to type 2. It's the same, the length, the width, and the colors. And then the type 4. Type 4 is the latest. It's the latest generation. It was developed this year. It was built in the texture format too, but there's additional features, which is we add in the flashing into the badge, the ridge, and the eave. So user can choose to use single skin with build-up components, or they can use a double skin with multiple layers. The adjustable or the changeable features is improved or already getting additional things for that, which is the length, the width, the color, and the flashing dimension. So NS BlueScope Lysaght BIM object is very easy to use. It can be easily insert to the project as component and then apply it to the work plane or the work surface. After that, adjust the length, the width, and the preference color. It will cover the whole area automatically. This is one of the example I want to show you. We used our in-house 360 seam BIM object on the roof, and also we use our X-Wedge BIM object for the wall. So the benefit of using high LED BIM object in the project is you can let the designer to visualize the profile of the product in the project. You refer to the 3D view on the left, the detail of each cladding sheet and the flashing is shown. And in addition, you can make it more realistic view in the rendering view too, which is as shown on the right. This is another example. We would like to show you that the difference in between modeling your project by using the high LOD BIM object, or you just use a default component in the software. In this example, we apply the X-Verge onto the side wall. Maybe I show you with the laser pointer. Hold on. This is the X-Verge you apply the side wall. It is at the right-hand side here. However, if you use the common brick wall to model the project, the visual effect will be so generic, which is shown here, the left-hand side here. This is we show the so-called the default brick wall. So in that case, your client is not able to visualize the authentic outlook of the building because it's not really shown the actual the cladding view. This is the rendering view of the building with Lysaght X-Verge BIM object and the normal default brick wall. In the rendering view on the right-hand side here, you are able to see the authentic outlook of the building when you apply that Lysaght X-Verge at the side wall. But in contrast, if you refer to the rendering view at the left-hand side here, you just show the generic view. So there's a difference here. So in this example, we change part of the wall from X-Verge to spandex, which is here, the brown color here. And then we change the X-Verge wall from Colorbond Forever Beach to the Titan Blue, which is this one. So the objective to showing this is we like to show you the texture or the outlook can be changed and switched easily in between different profile and colors if you use the Lysaght BIM object. And then in addition, refer to the blow up illustration graphic, which is here and here. And if you compare to the actual project photos, this is the actual project photos, these two. Then the graphic in the 3D modeling is quite matched with the actual spandex Optima and the X-Verge in terms of the texture, the orientation, and the profile and the zoom out view. So therefore, if you use the Lysaght BIM object in your project, you are able to let your client to see the authentic projection outlook of the building once it is built. So Lysaght BIM object provides a conveniency and efficiency to the user so that it can be easily adopted and used in the project. Basically, we really prepare the BIM object in plug-and-play basis. So Lysaght BIM object covering most of the Lysaght products, and it is available in all kind of color range, which is all the color bond range already built into the BIM object. So user just need to select and insert the BIM object into the project and then select the preference profile or color, then it will cover the whole area. And in order to make it user-friendly, we minimize the manual input. So user just need to insert the BIM object into the work plane or work area of the project file, and then key in the length and actual width, which is shown here, the length and the actual width here. And then it will cover the whole roof and wall area. If user would like to adjust the flashing depth, they're allowed to do it too. This is the flashing height. You can adjust the flashing height also. And in addition, we almost embedded the entire product specification into the BIM object. So it helps the user to understand the product capability and limitation easily. So which is all the spec is showing here, the rib height, the effective width, the steel grade, everything is built in here. In addition, we also build in a simple calculation to help user to obtain the estimate quantity of the roofing sheet and fastener once they assign the BIM object to the area. The quantity can be changed according to the profile also. And here we prepare a short video to show you how the Lysaght BIM objects is used and where to download it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy it. Let me show you. Alright, so if you would like to explore or download our Lysaght BIM object, you can visit to our website, go to the resource page, and then search for the building information modeling, and you're able to download our Lysaght BIM object and also the user guide. So our BIM objects is available in double scheme with multiple layers of the components plus the substrate. Or you can select a single scheme with multiple layers but without the substrate, which is as shown here. And so upon you download the Lysaght BIM object, you can load or import it into the BIM software called Revit. At first, when you're in the project mode, you go to the Insert tab and then select the Lysaght BIM object that you have already downloaded. And next, you go to the architectural and then select the component. After that, you go to the placement and then place on the work plane, or you can place on the face. Then you will see the Lysaght BIM object display on the screen. You just place it onto the designated position and start to adjust the features. If you would like to build it in 3D, you can click on the 3D view button. First, you click on the BIM object so that the properties is shown. After that, you hover your mouse to the material and finishes and click on the finishes. The full color range of the color bond will be displayed. Then you select your preference color and click OK. Then you will be selected with the color that you want. Now let's get into the dimension adjustment. Then you select the BIM object again, go to the properties, and then edit type, and adjust the value in the length and the actual width. Then you click apply, and then you click OK. Then the dimension of the BIM object will be changed accordingly. All right. So that's the end of the product talk today. For more information, do visit our online exhibition stand by click on the button below. And you can WhatsApp me for any inquiry about the Lysaght products or the BIM objects. Or you may contact Dr.Leng by scan on the QR code as shown if you would like to have cooperation with UTM. And please scan on the QR code to access the Lysaght BIM object download page if you feel interested to explore it. So we are glad to have you joining today, and thank you very much for signing this session. I wish everybody stay safe and stay healthy. Goodbye.